What's up, folks? I want to talk about my Spectral Helix self-poison, self-chill assassin who is probably one of my fastest mappers I've ever made. The point that makes it so quickly is we have an amazing reverse chill that is then triggered by getting some poisons on us by attacking with Spectral Throw, and then from there you just press Plaguebringer and run through the map at absolutely insane speeds, and it is just a fantastic little mapping build. When it comes to things like bossing, it is going to be capable of doing your fears and stuff. If you have kind of this different playstyle when it comes to ramping, it is a poison build, so the poison ramp is pretty important, and if you can't really get those ramps going, it is going to be difficult. So I would personally recommend this more for a mapping focused build just because it is so fast. It's actually also pretty good at running lab. It's not a pure lab runner, but reverse chill is one of those places where it's pretty good. So when it comes to, you know, that single target stuff, you're going to be putting down your wither totems, your focuses, you're going to be popping your Val Clarities to make sure you can spin up in time, and then you're going to pop yourself down a bunch of Spectral Helixes, and that should then ramp up with a lot of poison hits on a boss, and they should start melting rather rapidly. I've done a couple endgame fights with this guy from your Mavens, your Awakeners, and stuff like that, and it looks like I can get about 40 to 50 poisons on a target to sustain pretty well, especially with the focus up. We could push up to 60, so the DPS is definitely there for single target, but it can be a little tricky to get it all to line up. So, what is this build and how does it work, and what is reverse chill, what is reflected poison, all that stuff. The first thing we gotta do is we gotta use a Spectral Helix, which is just a really good skill if you have a poison going. I've tried Cobra Lash, I've tried a lot of the other spells that are possible. Spectral Helix for us poisons. When we poison, we use the golden rule, which is poisons you inflict is reflected onto you if you have fewer than 100 poisons. So 100 poisons or less, we're always going to be reflecting. When we reflect poison onto ourselves, we then become chilled. So you are chilled when you are poisoned. So as long as we hit things with a poison, we then become chilled. From that chill, we then reverse the chill using the Winter Weave. The effect of chill is on you is reversed. And because we are running the Unwaken Unbound elements for increased effective non-damaging elements, along with the Olia's Delight to give ourselves even more of a non-affecting damage and element effect, we get a 30% reverse chill the moment we poison ourselves. And it's really powerful because reverse chill is actually a action speed multiplier, so it's a more action speed. It's one of the few things like Tailwind or the boot roll that is action speed and oriented, and that's one of the things we're running here. The way that it works is really kind of weird, and it do give up a lot of slots, like, you know, you give up an Ice Fang Orbit, you give up a Winter Weave, you give up your Golden Rule. You then have to also get poison immunity. There's a couple of chess pieces that do poison immunity, but there's also something like this where you can get unaffected by poisons while affected by malevolence. Now that we are a dot build, it's very easy to give ourselves malevolence because, you know, that's a damaging buff aura, so we unaffect ourselves by poison using a Watcher's Eye. On top of that, we can run things like Replica Hotheads for increased attack speed and movement speed when we are chilled, because we are always going to be chilled, because every poison we reflect chills us, so that's another buff onto that, along with other stuff we grab on the tree for just, you know, poison scaling, but we'll get into that as we go. I forgot that this build actually has the Forbidden Jewel in it. So, it's been a little bit since I played this guy. How does it all come together? Well, we use Spectral Helix because Spectral Helix is, like I said, just one of the better poison appliers. You just run around and you can, you know, get your stacks going. A little bit of weird distancing stuff you got to get used to, but I like Spectral Helix. I know some people don't like it. I'm a fan of Spectral Helix in its state. We then also have to go Nightblade. Nightblade is giving us a massive amount of elusive and crit multi. Right now, I have about 300 elusive up at all times because I have Withering Step on my left click. So when I apply it, unapply it, apply it, unapply it constantly, we keep it up right around 300%, which then in turn turns into our damage over time multiplier because of Perfect Agony. So by combining a massive elusive, a massive crit multi, we then get that into Perfect Agony because we're always critting because we are an assassin. We get some power charges and stuff like that going. it makes it so that we are really, really good at having massive crit multi, to the point that we actually needed more increased damage on this build than we did at dot multi. So damage over time multiplier was actually not that good for me, so I had to actually build stuff around getting increased damage instead. So Spectral Helix, Nightblade with Awaken Added Chaos, of course that gives us a lot more flat to chaos with, because we have some on the claw and then we have some on here, so we get a nice big chaos flat bonus. Awaken Unbound, once again, that gives us a longer poison, which is really good for that ramping, that stacking. It also gives us those non-effective damaging elements, which is really powerful for the build. Awaken Void Manipulation for +1 chaos skills does nothing, but it does 39% more chaos damage, which is the important part. It just was really, really cheap to pick up on Awaken level 520, so I might as well pick that up. And then Awaken Vicious Projectiles as well was pretty cheap, so I slapped one of those in there for another 59% more chaos damage over time, which is just fine. The projectile speed is a little annoying, but we do pick up some projectile speed from the more projectile speed node over down here when we pick up lethality, so it's fine. It's not too bad. Spectral Helix does spin a little bit slowly, but it's not the end of the world. From there, the mapping clear comes from a Plaguebringer level 2120 with an Empower 3, could get an Empower 4 if you really want to spend the money, and an increased area effect just so it's a really big and you can run through. If you noticed in the video clip where I was mapping, Plaguebringer was actually having a little bit of difficulty killing some stuff because I move too quickly. I've kind of gotten to the point where my action speed is too high. And so we actually ended up getting a cluster into the skill to get unspeakable gifts, which means that whenever they die by chaos damage, they explode with the 10% chance to explode, which is really nice, and then it scales from there. And it's basically doing the rest of my clearing for me, which is really nice. It ended up being better than I thought combined with Plaguebringer. That's one of the reasons in mapping you really don't use Spectral Helix that much. One Helix will give you the instant stack of Plaguebringer, and from there you can just run through the map at full speed and not worrying about it. We are also enlightening a Malevolence and a Grace, along with Enlighten of Despair, Clarity, and Awakened Blasphemy. This was because I was trying to fit as many things into the build as possible while still having enough mana to cast and kind of pre-spin up. So right now I can spin up about 3 or 4 before I need to worry about things like Val Clarity. So that's in there for just that reason. The Clarity is level 7. I didn't want to put it too maxed out because I would lose the rest of my mana if I were to do that. I do run 2 Enlightens, which is kind of annoying because that does increase the price of the build, but this was more so because I was trying to get Awakened Despair in there because I didn't really want to self-cast Despair. I'd rather have it on at all times while mapping, because then you get everything around you goes down in resistances, making it easier to run through with Plaguebearer. Once again, I kind of designed this to be a mapping and a labbing build, so if you don't want or need to have Awakened Despair with the Enlighten on there, then you can get by with just self-casting Despair on single target, and that's going to be just fine. Then we got some multi-totem, Spell Totem, Wither, faster casting action. Wither is just not maxed out leveled because it doesn't really need to be, and it's also because I don't have enough intelligence to max its level out. So this is just so that we can get ourselves little totem boys. They'll do the Wither stacking. 15 Wither is very important. You can run the alt quality Elusive Step and buff that up a little bit if you wanted to do that with like enhances and stuff, or just rely on this. I like Wither totems myself. I know some people don't like it for bossing or mapping or whatever. I'm okay with Wither totems. It's completely fine with me. You can change that if you need to, if you want to. Then just faster attacks, Withering Step, Whirling Blades, Life Tap. That's just so we can run around, always have Withering Step going, and then reset it with Whirling Blades, because Whirling Blades will reset it if we haven't run through anything for a while. So as you can tell, just in my hideout right now, just Withering Step without hitting anything is giving me 240 elusive, and Nightblade is going to then massively boost that elusive stack up to the 300s, 340s, but the average is right around 300 for that. In terms of gearing for this guy, it's pretty standard gearing in some degree. Now, I needed to get frenzy charges from somewhere, so we ended up getting a synthesis frenzy charge on hit chest, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to get spell suppression in the gear as well, and I found it really difficult to go the route of getting spell suppression and also getting frenzy on hit from the other modifier. So I ended up getting a synthesis chest for this build, and then crafting the chest around that with life, spell suppression as being the main two I was looking for, and then a little bit of energy shield, because we do run ghost, not that one, this one, ghost dance, so that whenever we do get hit, because we have a pretty good amount of evasion, right now 17,000 or almost 18,000 just sitting here in my hideout, and then of course, you know, pop the flask and stuff, we go to 33,000. So ghost dance is our recovery medic for our energy shield. Now there was a idea for if I could get the shield off of this build, still get the suppression and the effects, we could put in an Apep Slumber, which for every 5 poisons gives you 400 energy shield regen, which would be really strong, and it gives you some flat chaos. I don't really know how to fit that into the build. I think that would be the better version of the build, but I don't know how to get that into the build. So for now, we just ran a normal shield with life, effective damaging elements, and then a little bit of spell suppression, so we can get ourselves spell suppression capped, which is very important for surviving. And that I think I self-crafted as well. I think most of this gear that I have on this guy is self-crafted with just crafting or clicking with greeds over and over again. So if you're looking for something like this, just assume you're going to be greed spamming out the wazoo, and that's what I've been doing. The gloves are, once again, spell suppression bases just to push ourselves above that line, and then a pair of focus cast speeds, which makes it so that we have a lot more attack speed to spin up more blades, and along with that, the focus for the increased duration of elements. Combine that, that is one of the best things you could do for poison, because poison wants that long duration so you can get a lot of stacks going, along with the attack speed so that you can stack up quicker. So really good focus combo on the gloves and the helmet. If you want to get that setup going, you definitely are going to be looking for that. Otherwise, it's kind of basic. It's just got some resistances, a crafted life, and then attack speed and spell suppression on the implicits, because that gives me more poison stacking and the rest of the spell suppression that I needed. Helmet, kind of the same thing. Increased effective non-damaging elements is there just so we can push, once again, that self-chill up to 30 no matter what I'm hitting. I always want it to be 30, so increased effective non-damaging elements is how we're pushing that even higher. Despair Curse effect, because I have Blasphemy, is really good, so might as well just buff it up a little bit more. And then it's just life resistances and that focus socket once again to just fit it in there with the Spectral Helix Spirals +1 rotation, which is really important for the build. Like I said earlier, we are running an Olia's Delight. This gives us more frenzy charges, and those frenzy charges become the affliction charges, and affliction charges are 8% more damage with ailments and 8% more effect of non-damaging elements per affliction charge. Once again, scales reverse chill, that's what I was going for, and we get more damage from that on top of that. So frenzy charges just becoming a different type of charge and being more effective for the build, along with some more evasion and stuff like that, which is really, really good. Then boots, same thing, action speed, elusive, and if I haven't crit recently, which I don't know why I have that on there, it really should be some other one, but that's just the one I think I was running lab and just slapped it on their boots. So don't mind that one. Life, resistances, movement speed, the same old, and then because I didn't know what else to put on there, because I didn't really have anything to put on there, I put on the prefix for evasion rating while focused, which was actually just fine for me, because like I said, we have, you know, a pretty good amount of evasion. It goes up a little bit more when I focus, and that's kind of when I need that the most. So that's just what I ended up slapping on there. Flask are your bog standard gain while you crit, with a bit of movement speed, a bit of evasion, a bit of attack speed, a bit of reduced curse effect, just in case I'm running a curse map and I want to run through it a little bit quicker and not be affected by it. I just slapped those on there. They're always up because I'm always critting. The whole thing with being Spectral Helix and Assassin is I do have power charges and things like that going, so my crit chance becomes basically 100 when I have power charges and everything going, and I don't have to really worry about it in that sense, so it makes it very, very easy. The other thing that I did pick up for this build is I do have the Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh for Prolonged Pain from the Trickster, which is just increased effective duration and more damage. Why not? 20% more damage is always going to be good. Nothing wrong with grabbing one of those. And as far as leveling goes, it was kind of a hodgepodge of what I was doing. I kind of grabbed some life and some damage, and then I came down, grabbed some life and damage, grabbed the reservation nodes pretty early on so that I could fit in a couple things while leveling up the build, and then started grabbing the reverse chill nodes. So I grabbed myself the socket here, grabbed myself the socket there, grabbed myself the socket up there, grabbed some life, and grabbed some more poison stuff, and then went the reverse chill as soon as I can, which is level 49, because that's when you can get both of these on, along with your golden rule and also your Malevolence Watcher's Eye, or whatever you need to activate the whole combo. So that is what I did. I kind of just went that route of just trying to go for it as early as possible. I don't know if that's really the play. I think you could probably get better off by not going so heavy, but realistically, and even in the beginning levels, Plaguebringer is going to be a really easy way to level up, because Plaguebringer is just stupidly strong. So pick up the poisons you inflict deal 300% increased damage to non-poisoned enemies, and then the Plague Bearer 20% max plague value as soon as you can, and then you can just start running through the content like it's absolutely nothing, which is fantastic and feels very, very good. The biggest issue with this build, and one of the reasons that it's going to be hard to recommend, is the accuracy was a bitch to solve. So I had to go kind of a weird route for it, and had to craft this thing, which is the Malevolence Hunter's Celebration Claw, and it was basically just spamming Chaos Fossils or Zeals, whichever you can get, and getting yourself the Malevolence and Celebration, and then doing, I believe it was suffixes cannot be changed and cannot roll attack mods, and then smashing it with a Hunter's Orb. I'll have to make sure that I'm correct on this before, I'll put it in the description. If you smash it with a Hunter's Orb, you can only get the chaos damage over time roll on the claw. So you start with the base claw of Malicious and Celebration, and then do multi-mod into the cannot roll attack mods if you need to block off, so you only have your prefixes and then only have those suffixes. And then you have to remove the multi-mod to put another multi-mod on for crits and hits. It's cost about 10x to make the claw, but realistically it is the best in slot claw for this build. It's really annoying that the claw costs that much and it takes so many steps to make, but it solves all your accuracy needs. You don't need to run precision. You don't need to worry about speccing into it on the tree. You get the attack speed, the chaos, and the chaos damage over time that you really need, alongside the crit chance, because you are a crit version of the build. So the claw overall is about 10x to create from base. At least that's what it took me to create it. It sucks that it's so expensive, but it is the most annoying part of the build. Realistically, I think at the beginning, if you're making the build, you could just get by with a hits can't be evaded, or, like I said, don't run Blasphemy on your Despair, self-cast that, grab a couple of these nodes with the Dex nodes here, and run Precision. You should still be fine if you're interested in a setup like this, especially if it's for mapping. You really don't need this. This was designed mostly because I wanted to also boss with this character. So I wanted to push the character a little bit further. I ended up making the claw that was required for that. And for mapping, though, you're just needing a couple hits to get Plaguebearer going, so you can run through at full speed, and then you'll rip through anything you want. We had to go with the Gemini claw because I needed life gain on hit and mana. I do have, a little bit less life than I would want. I would like to push that up higher, but I'm already 95 on this character, which makes it a little bit tricky to get more, other than maybe, I don't know, getting higher values on stuff, but they're almost all max rolls besides that one. It's really hard to get more HP on this character. We have enough energy shield with Ghost Dance that it does feel pretty good, and that's where the regen from something like Apex Slumber might be really beneficial, because you'd gain 400 energy shield regen a second on top of this, which would probably feel pretty good. But the spell suppression and everything else combined does pretty much balance out and feel good enough to play with. I can recommend the character as a mapper. I mean, Plaguebearer is always going to be a really good one, but when it comes to the reverse chill, getting that massive amount of movement speed and then just running through the maps at Mach 10, it is really, really fun. It is really good, and it's been a pleasure just to do like waste pools, toxic sewers, any of the straight line maps, your beaches, your even stuff like cemetery and coves. Anything where you could just freely run a nice smooth pattern and just cover everything and just absolutely destroy them is really, really nice. And I can highly recommend the build for that kind of stuff. When it comes to bossing, it's a poison build. It's got ramp. You gotta be able to put your stuff down, find the opening, and then just go to town, and to be able to spin up enough and do enough damage. If you're really serious about bossing in those situations, you probably maybe would be dropping something like your one of the evasion flask, and then going for mana so you can spin up even more, or the drop to Quicksilver actually. probably drop the Quicksilver, get a mana flask so you can spin up a lot in the beginning, and then you'd be good to go. Because in something like Maven, something like Cirrus, you are not going to have Valid Clarity up at the beginning. You might have it on the later phases, but not at the beginning, so you're not going to be able to really rely on that as your spin up mechanic. Anyway, that is the breakdown of the build. Path to building will be in the description, and yeah, overall I really enjoy the build. I'm definitely going to do more reverse chills. This is the second character I've done reverse chill on. It's really fun. It gives you insane amounts of movement speed, action speed, everything. As you know, it's awesome. Very good on casters, very good on poison builds, very good on just about anything, and some builds have a whole lot easier time making the loop work. This one you kind of give up to for that, and it kind of sucks for it. Oh yeah, I forgot, I also use a Badge of the Brotherhood because, you know, elusive effect is fantastic and gives us both our power and our frenzy charges, and that's why we have so many power and frenzy charges on the build, because we use a Badge of the Brotherhood. I don't know why I just completely ignored that part, but hey, now you know. That kind of makes sense though. So yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I highly recommend the build. It's a really fun build to play for just general purpose mapping, and if you just want to run around like you have, you know, a locomotive stuck up your ass. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was informative. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below or ask on Twitter or Twitch. I'm live every night from 8 p.m. Eastern, and yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I do recommend checking out. That's it for me. You guys have a good one. Peace.